HILUX. They're unbreakable, aren't they?
Welcome back to another episode of Project Luxy. This time suspension and tyres. Why I upgraded to 33s, what suspension I have, what is it? Well, let's get stuck into it because this has been the most requested episode so far of Project Luxy. Ladies and gents, here is the menu of today's episode, all there. There are skip points down below so you can jump to each of these points simply by going down there. So if there's anything you didn't quite track of what I was saying or you want to hear it again, just jump down there. Let's get to it. First of all, let's talk about the suspension. What is it? It is a 2-inch lift by All-Man Emus BP51s with the remote reservoir. And I'll tell you what we got in the front and the back. It is a 2-inch lift, or classed as a 2-inch lift, but the vehicle itself actually came up a bit higher than that. It'll probably settle in though. So the front actually came up to 75mm and the rear came up to 100mm. And that's more to do so because I don't have a lot of weight in the rear and I do have 300 kilo constant load springs. There are two options. The next option is a 600 constant load spring. That I found will probably be too much for my HILUX because it's quite light. It's actually quite light in the rear. So 300 kilos, I was umming and ahhing a little bit. I thought about when I put the trailer on, what is it going to do? How's it going to behave? I'll get to that in the towing, but I'm pretty pleased. On the front, we've added upper control arms, some UCAs, also known as UCAs. That has helped me fit the tyres, but it's not something you need unless you go to this tyre size here. And we'll talk about this a bit later. So I've gone for the whole kit and caboodle. They are remote reservoir. They're also adjustable. I put the lift on as one of the last things I did to the HILUX. And there's a reason for that. I wanted all the weight on the vehicle first so they could then tailor my suspension to how the vehicle was sitting and how it was behaving with the weight it already had on it. And this is what it looked like before it had the lift. The front's dipping down quite a bit because of all that weight. And this is what it looks like after it's had the suspension lift. Looks much better. Sits much better, doesn't fail on the guard anymore either. Because we have added about 100 kilos to the front, even with the Dyneema rope. So you add bar work, you add a winch, it's going to make your nose dip down. So you can't really do that without having a lift. A lot of people lift their vehicle first, then put bigger tyres on it. Generally something they do at the same time, but then they add the bull bar, they add a rear bar, they add all this other stuff. Load the vehicle up. All of a sudden the vehicle isn't kind of behaving the way they wanted it to. And it's because they didn't do the suspension after all the weight was added on. So if you do it too early, you may have to go back and get it all redone. That canister in there, that is the remote res. Why have I gone for this style of shock? It's quite simple really. When you do a lot of driving on corrugations and the rough stuff where the shock works very hard a lot and gets very hot, that's where you get the benefits of these types of shocks. It prolongs the life of your shock absorber and it makes it perform better. Not everyone needs a remote res shock at all, but for those who travel a lot on corrugations, should probably consider one. It's a more comfortable ride, but also the longevity of your shocks. Now I've had shocks before that were they had no remote res and they only lasted me about 80,000 Ks, less than that actually. And then they were just shot out. Now a lot of these you can actually refill. You can get them reserviced, but most people don't. They tend to chuck them out, buy some new ones. But with this set here, I'm not sure how long they're gonna last, but I would say it'll be for quite a while. So we'll see. But that's why I went for remote reservoir shocks. So how does the suspension feel? Am I happy with it? Well, here are my first impressions. First proper corrugated road with a trailer as well on the BP51s. Very happy. Have not adjusted them yet. They're sitting right in the middle. I think there's 10 adjustments. I think the front's on 6 and the back's on 5. Very happy, actually. Very, very happy. What do you think?
It's not bad. It's a good ride. Yeah, it's quite comfy. Even with the tyres at road pressure.
Welcome back to the future. So far, I really love how the suspension handles. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, with what it was, with being BP51s with the adjustable for rebound and compression, I haven't touched that setting at all. When it was first put in, it was set to, I think it was 6 on rebound and 5 on compression. It goes from 1 to 10. I haven't mucked around with it because I found the vehicle behaves really well. And that's not the reason why I went for that suspension. I didn't go for it because I can adjust it. I went for it because it had remote reservoir, and Torben raves on about it. And my mate Sean, who used to work at the Wangara store, he let me drive his car just out here. And we compared my HILUX on stock suspension to his BP51s. Corrugation test. We're in four-wheel drive because it's safer. We have maximum tyre pressure still, and we're going to keep the same in both vehicles. So I'm literally just getting the feel of my own vehicle before I jump in the other one, just so I can gauge it properly. Back in the blue HILUX, heading back to my HILUX. I'm going to sit on the same speed. On the way in, I definitely noticed a difference. Yeah, it's absorbing it more. Every single bump is still there, but it feels different. That section there was a lot rougher in my car. I reckon I need to jump back in my car just to confirm. Just make sure it's not the mind playing on it. Down to the same speed we did before. All right, here we go. Yeah, it's definitely more noticeable in this car. I'm actually pretty keen to do it. I'm gonna sleep on it though, and then make a decision wherever we do it. Always sleep on every single decision, doesn't matter what it is, always sleep on every decision. A lot of you guys out there have been asking me that common question: what lift do you need to fit this size tyres? Well, you already know I have a 2-inch lift, and that's not really what you need to fit the tyres. What you really need to do to fit 33-inch tyres to a HILUX is to do the body mount chop. And to do the body mount chop, you're altering the chassis, you're altering the body mount. This is a serious discussion here. You need to get someone who can legally do it and give you a valid plate so it's certified. Because if you don't get that certified and you get pulled up and you have to go over the pits, you can't undo that, okay? You can't undo a body chop. So make sure it's done by someone who can certify it and who does a professional job. I, in particular, went to On Track Fabrication here in Perth. So if you are in Perth, that's the place to go. Anywhere else in the country, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there are others around.
Another noteworthy thing, I altered the splash guards with a mallet and a heat gun, melting the plastic and reshaping it.
We're up at Lancelin and we're going to check my splash guard alterations and see how that works. I'm pretty confident though. We're at 15 psi as well. And what I noticed so far driving in, I'm noticing less bumps than I did with the slightly smaller tyre. It's amazing what 1.5 inches can do. 1.5 inch. bank. I would have contacted by now, surely. I think we're good. We are really good. Another noteworthy thing you need to know about fitting 33s to a HILUX, upper control arms. And what the upper control arm does, it allows for caster. Your vehicle now has more movement in the wheel. So with my wheel alignment specs, we've gone as far forward as we can, because on the HILUX, there's less room at the back, but there's more room at the front, especially when you put a bull bar on it. So my bumper's now gone that was on here before, and with that gone, I can now move it forward. So to have 33s clear on your vehicle, you need UCOs, you need a bull bar, and you need body mount chop, and you need to address the splash guard a little bit. Now you know everything you need to know. Now we're talking about the tyres. These are 285 70 R17s. Same rim I had before, which is the P-Core rim, but I've gone with a mud tyre on them now, and they're 33 inch. Well, in fact, they're 32.7 inch tyres. They're about close enough to 33. I feel like I made the right decision by putting MTs on, but had I put the ATs on again as 33s, I wouldn't have complained. The ATs were a fantastic tyre, but the MTs, yeah, it's also a bit of a looks thing. I do like the look that they give, the aggressiveness of the pattern. With all the full driving I'm doing, even though a lot of it's sand, I still feel that mud terrain is the best tyre for my application with all the driving that I do. Plus a bit of confidence as well, and yeah, let's not deny the looks of them. Aggressive sidewall tyres looks great on a vehicle. And the noise, slightly noisier, but nothing to worry about. You see, I went from highway terrain to all-terrain, then from all-terrain to mud terrain. Had I gone from highway terrain all the way to mud terrain, then it would have been a different story. I would have noticed the noise a bit more. But as far as this particular mud tyre goes, the Maxxis Razor, which I'm used to on the Cruiser, which is just over there, it's not a lot of noise. How does it tow? It tows very bloody well. And with the weight that I put on the HILUX, with the 300 kilo constant load on the rear, it's just perfect for a 1.5 ton trailer. That's when it's fully loaded. With a ball weight of, I think it's 100 kilos. With that combination, it's bloody good. It didn't bounce me around too much. I didn't have to change the actual compression or the rebound like I mentioned earlier. And I was surprised I didn't have to. I honestly thought when I got this, the only time I would use the compression and rebound was when I was going to tow. Look, at some stage I might play around with it, but to get that right, I think it takes a lot of time and effort. And if it feels right already, what's the point? Don't fix it if it's not broken. That's the way I look at it. It just tows really good. That's all I've got to say. Through all different terrains as well. The previous tyre and rim combo was 39 kilos per corner, and then you got the spare as well. Now they're sitting at 44.6. So that is an extra 5.6 kilos per corner. Let's just round it to 5.5. That means that we have, well over 25 kilos extra added to the vehicle just in the tyres. That's it. Just because we went up in a larger tyre and because they're mud terrain, we've added a little bit of weight there. Suspension. This was hard to quantify because I didn't get a chance to weigh all the suspension. So what we are going to do here is just add 7 kilos per corner. That's pretty safe because we pulled suspension out, we put new suspension in. And I think 7 kilos per corner is being generous. So that's an extra 28 kilos of payload to the vehicle as well. It's not for legality reasons. And let's just address that here. If you are going to lift and put tyres in your vehicle, you need to check with your state laws or your country laws, depending where you are in the world. But if you're in Australia, check with the state laws or the territory laws. And you may be surprised, many states only allow a lift and not the tyre. They don't allow the combo. Now that's addressed, check it out for yourself, research it yourself. The reason why I've gone for a 2-inch lift and 33-inch tyres is because it's practical. For what I'm doing, it's practical. You can get away with smaller tyres, of course, but I've chosen to go that size because I found on the previous trip, when I did lower my tyres right down to beach pressures and we're driving on Riverstone, I heard the bash plate contact the ground every now and then. So therefore, that was one of my reasons to go bigger tyres. The 2-inch lift, why not a 3-inch or a 4-inch or a 5 or a 6? Well, I don't want a 6-inch lift with a jet ski behind me. That's not me. I need a practical vehicle. All 2-inch lifts you buy off the shelf have some form of research and development done for it. This kit is made for the vehicle. It's been trialed. They know it works. If you start going 3, 4, 5, 6-inch, it can end up being a Frankenstein lift, and not much research and development has gone into that type of lift, especially at high speeds on the highway and stuff. It's not practical. It's not going to do what you want it to do, and all it does is it may look cool, but it's going to be pretty damn useless. So I would suggest you stick to around a 2-inch lift, but that's just my opinion. Once you go to 3-inch, 4-inch, you need a diff drop down kit, you need to do all kinds of other stuff. Some people do body mount lifts, I haven't done that. 2-inch lift, 33s, works perfectly, and that's how we're going to leave it. Well, what else is left to cover on the HILUX? There's a couple of things still. We've got the armour here. We've got all the fuel underneath, the fuel in the back, the water setup. We've got what's underneath the bonnet. We'll get to that in the next episode. See you then.